Just 2 days to go before America decides. But whether we'll know by Tuesday night exactly what we've decided is a very big question. Major Garrett now on the outlook for TV's election night tradition.
Father Knows Best and The Gary Moore Show will not be seen tonight as CBS News brings you its nationwide election coverage.
Election night. One of the few remaining events when the entire nation gathers around the electronic campfire.
Sorry, forgive me for interrupting. Ohio falls for Bill Clinton.
To learn the nation's political future together.
We could be in for a long night.
Whether the winner is expected.
President Nixon has been reelected.
Well, there's a roar of approval here.
Or expectations are upended.
Word there is that Hillary Clinton has called Donald Trump to concede.
We watch because we are part of it.
This presidential race is still not decided.
This is bigger than the Super Bowl, bigger than the World Series.
Presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin.
Because the big difference is you may get completely caught up in the drama of those other sporting events, but we are participants. We're not spectators in this.
The big election night, 1952.
1952 set a new tone for election nights in the television age.
A UNIVAC is a fabulous electronic machine.
CBS pulled out all the technological stops. Before the space age was a well-known term, CBS introduced Remington Rand's UNIVAC.
This is not a joke or a trick. It's an experiment. We think it's going to work.
Tears go up from his supporters.
It predicted the night's winner, General Dwight D. Eisenhower. But speaking that night before Eisenhower,
the people have rendered their verdict, and I gladly accept it.
Illinois Governor Adlai Stevenson, resoundingly defeated, gave the first nationally televised concession speech in American history.
It is traditionally American to fight hard before an election. It is equally traditional to close ranks as soon as the people have spoken.
That he's got that understanding of his responsibility and setting a tone, I think, that becomes an example for all the people who concede afterwards.
Senator Obama and I have had and argued our differences, and he has prevailed.
And those same themes you hear throughout.
We have fought the good fight, and
we fought hard. We've come to an end. We accept this result. We will work together.
And once the decision is made, we unite behind the man who is elected.
Florida goes Bush, the presidency is Bush, that's it.
But not every election night has a concession speech.
Bulletin. Senior Gore aide confirms Gore withdraws concession. That's bulletin material with a capital B.
Some elections don't even end on election night.
About 10 minutes ago, the vice president did call the governor and retracted his concession.
We put Florida back in the undecided category.
I think like most people in the country, I went to bed with a scene on my TV showing the vote count in Florida. I woke up the next morning, turned on my TV, and realized that nothing had changed, and we still didn't have a president.
Moments later, Tallahassee attorney Barry Richard got a call from George W. Bush's team. A lawsuit had been filed in Palm Beach County, and Bush needed a lawyer.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have with me this afternoon Mr. Barry Richard of Tallahassee, Florida.
The recount transfixed the nation.
If we don't figure out the count right on this, we're a banana republic.
Voters who never heard of or thought about ballot design came to know about the butterfly variety.
Some say when they went to select Gore, they mistakenly punched Buchanan.
Everybody knows about the Chads now, so.
And hanging Chads.
Does the Chad have to be punched all the way out? Do you look at a dimple? Is that enough?
In a flash, Barry Richard became one of the most recognized lawyers in America.
You can keep counting forever, when do you stop?
As soon as I stepped out of my office door, there were a mass of reporters walking backwards in front of me wherever I went.
The confusion and chaos continued for 36 days, ending only when the United States Supreme Court handed down a 5-4 ruling stopping a hand recount of ballots in Florida, ensuring George W. Bush would win the state's electors and therefore the presidency. Could what happened in Florida back then happen today? This year, several states will count millions more mail-in ballots after November 3rd, and that could delay final results for a day or more. Already, in excess of 400 lawsuits have been filed about election rules. Unlike in 2000, lawyers for both campaigns stand ready to fight over any perceived infraction. But for former Bush attorney Barry Richard, that's not the biggest difference he sees between this year's election and the contest between George W. Bush and Al Gore.
It never even was a consideration for a candidate to say that he wouldn't accept the ultimate results once they were known.
We want to make sure the election is honest, and I'm not sure that it can be.
Donald Trump, as candidate and now president, has repeatedly refused to say if he would accept the results of an election he did not win.
Because the only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Remember that.
Back in 2000, just a day after the Supreme Court's ruling,
5 weeks, but it seems we have a president.
Al Gore addressed the nation.
Just moments ago, I spoke with George W. Bush and congratulated him on becoming the 43rd President of the United States. And I promised him that I wouldn't call him back this time. Let there be no doubt, while I strongly disagree with the court's decision, I accept it.
I think it really did put to rest what had been, at that point in our modern history, the most tumultuous election.
We just voted.
Doris Kearns Goodwin says whether we know the winner on election night
4 more years,
or a day or two later, this year's losing candidate has a responsibility greater than any nominee in modern history to help heal the nation, or at least try.
This is the final responsibility that they have to bear. They had a responsibility to their supporters, a responsibility to try to win this election, and now this larger responsibility is to help the country get through this moment and then finally to bring a closure to it.
And now, my friends, in a phrase I once addressed to others, it's time for me to go. Thank you, and good night, and God bless America.